And my daughter was starting off, and that we had moved her this weekend, and she's all set. And then, Tammy, you picked the great I Am. I don't know if you know, but that's what she's preaching on, Exodus chapter 3 and 4. So what she's preaching on our first Sunday. And when she told me that, I was touched, because I don't know if you realize this, but I preached my first Sunday 40 years ago. And that's what I preached on, very first Sunday. And the main reason was, if you don't know, Moses made 5 excuses as to why God had picked the wrong person. It's a great way to start your entire ministry. Say, Lord, you picked the wrong person. And yet God still chose Moses, and Moses did do what Moses never thought he could do. And in some respects, I think that's the whole point of her message, and I know it was the whole point of the one I preached 40 years ago, that God's calling us to something we may consider that we cannot do, but somehow we're able to when the Spirit of the living God comes upon us, and as we follow. And that's one of the most beautiful pieces of this wonderful story and journey that we're on. Well, we're looking at this wonderful series we've been in. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's basically the emphasis of Jesus around the lake, and just the fact Jesus loved the lake. And I've told you some great fishing stories, and the one about the fish that was this big, and every time I tell the story it gets bigger. So if I'd retold some of those stories I've told you thus far, it might even be bigger and better. I don't know, but the point of the matter is we're by the lake. And in Mark chapter 3, I wanted this one read today, because it has this wonderful inclusion of the fact that Jesus was moving around the Lake of Galilee, which is north of Jerusalem. And there's these areas around there, Jordan being one, with those 2 cities, etc. And people were coming from those areas out into the country around the Sea of Galilee where Jesus was. And they were finding him, and the crowds just kept growing, because what he was teaching was so powerful, but also, as you well know, he was laying hands on people, and they were being healed. Demons were being cast out. I mean, it was an amazing incident in their lives. I'm sure if they think through all the many years of their life as they lived it, that perhaps was one of the high points when they found their way with their family members or with their community members to the lake and heard Jesus preach one day, and one of them that had been ill or demon-possessed was released from that illness, released from that evil presence. And so something like that would certainly be in your heart and mind. But what I want to let you see here is that as Jesus moved to the lake, in this case, he was almost pressed by the crowd. It's like, where else can I go? And he knew they couldn't go out on the lake, so he told his disciples, get a boat ready. Now, we already talked a story about the fact that Jesus got on Peter's boat and preached a message. We already talked about it's a natural amplifier. It hits the water and goes up the mountainside where the people were, and so they could hear much more clearly. It's obviously a way Jesus did business around the Sea of Galilee, regularly getting on boats and preaching to mountainsides of people. It's really a wonderful image. Jesus loved the lake. In this particular incident, there in one of the verses, I need to highlight it, because in verse 11, whenever the evil spirit saw him, they fell down before him and cried out, "You are the Son of God." And then he gave them strict orders